department at the ATD, Amsterdam Dance Academy of Theatre and Dance. And yes, I know you as a very nice, loving, always friendly, always positive energy in the DD. Yes, and yes, and I'm very happy that you're here. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about very shortly about what you do, what you love to do.
Two different
Yes.
things.
Small moment, because now the live stream of so sorry, I have the live stream on my other screen, so because it's really cool, then I can look at it from the other angle. But you started there later, so I'm still hearing everything. So, not the introduction. Let's go to the introduction. What did you ask me, Diana? Because I was confused.
What do you love to do, and what are you doing? I mean, professionally, of course, and I think it's.
I love to work with. Dance is like the overall love, and contributing to the growth of young talents in dance or other arts, of course, because everybody expresses him or herself in his own way. That's the love. That's why I live. I really.
Thank you. Yes,
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you, Damar. And then I will go and switch to Natalia. Natalia, yes. Can you tell us where you? Because I know you from the artist's resident, my residency here in the Plein Theater, and we worked together. What I really loved, and we had really nice conversation also together. Maybe you can tell a little bit about what you love to do.
Thank you for inviting me here and very nice meeting all of you. I'm a student, actually just graduated from University of Amsterdam in neuroscience and in medicine. And these are two topics that I really like to talk about and to learn about and to read about. What else? I don't really know what to say because it's been a long while, but I'm really curious in the intersection between art and science that supposedly have no dialogue, but there is a lot of grayness in between which really captures me and captivates me.
Yes, thank you, Natalia. Thank you. Welcome. And then we go to Saskia. Saskia, maybe you can. I know Saskia from my classes. Online, from the online practice, and also a long time before I saw you as a performer for one student of the DD, which I really loved what you did there at that time, and somehow our paths crossed again, and maybe you can tell us what you love.
Okay. Well, I love to dance, and I love language. I am now doing a PhD in Italian literature and philosophy. And for me, my recurring question is about this connection between language and the body. And I also think dance is also a language, or language is it's what I love in all forms.
And I also guess you love poetry a lot.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what you
Yeah.
told me. Yeah, nice. So there is also kind of a crossing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Saskia. And then I go to Maureen. Maureen. Yes. I know Maureen from Theater de Gasten, which I had the chance to work with. Unfortunately, we have to break the process.
Yeah.
But we were. I think it was the very nice click immediately.
Yeah.
And and I hope we will continue, of course. But maybe you can tell us what you love.
So I love to dance as well. What a surprise! And to play theater. Actually, more going into the physical theater mime direction. And yeah, I love to discover my body and what it is able to do in certain circumstances, in spaces, how it reacts to music, and so on. It's just one big discovery at the moment.
Nice, thank you, great. I saw that Rose is also entered. That's nice. Welcome, Rose. We don't see you yet, but you are there. That's nice that you joined. Maybe we can start with the questions. What do you think?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, who do you want to start with? Maureen, maybe we can start here?
Yes.
Did you have a look at the questions? Or
A little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I'll walk you through them.
Okay.
We'll walk together, hand in hand. Okay. Well, the theme of this evening is, for us, we chose the restrictive constraints. Of course, because it's a really great tool in theatre land and in improvisation land and in the landscape of our COVID crisis. Restrictive constraints is something that suddenly rings a bell to everybody. And I think in our over-consumer society, it's also very interesting. It's interesting to see what's going on. So we were wondering, with the first question, not to talk about the constraints so much, but where lies your freedom?
So for me, simply said, freedom lies in dancing, in expressing, in movement. But I do notice now that I always used to connect freedom to a certain activity or a goal. And ever since this process, in my performance that you saw, of course, I discovered that it really comes from the mind. It truly is a state of mind. And that opens a lot of new ways for me, even in finding freedom within limits. And yeah, I think that's where freedom is now for me. Because you can, eventually in my performance, can I tell about performance? Yeah, okay. Okay. Because it still has to be seen, because it's not out yet, but okay. Little preview. So or the gasten and me, we put me in a box of like 1.5 meter, maybe 1 meter, I guess. A glass box like that, and it just really surprised me how free I felt eventually, even in that box.
Beautiful.
And that's so strange. So ever since, I'm like, it's a state of mind. Freedom is,
Great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a big value to discover in a period like this. Yeah.
It is.
So, with this awakened awareness of about freedom, how will you take that into the future? If you just imagine like things would be more or less open again, how will you take this new knowledge into the new work or even your personal life?
I think it's really, for me, it works to stay optimistic in the times where we have these restrictions. So even when things will open again, I think there will always be this mindset of no, I don't want to be controlled, I don't want to have limits, I don't want to have these restrictions, but within that opening up a new way, like seeing things from different perspectives. And to me, that is a way of staying optimistic and of staying fluid.
Nice,
Yeah.
beautiful. Fluidity, of course, is a really beautiful tool also to talk about when you think about improvisation, movement, the role of the body now. Yeah. So would you say you use the restrictions even outside your work in the performance for your benefits, or?
Well, during the performance, I did benefit from it, but I cannot completely say that outside of it I've applied it to any private aspect of my life. But during the performance, it really did. Literally, I was at a certain moment, I was like climbing up those walls, I was gliding off of it, I was like doing handstands, and if you ask me now to do like a handstand, I cannot. So it really it gave me new tools to move in a different way, actually.
This is really interesting, because you describe actually a richness and enlarging of possibilities.
Yeah.
And just before I started creating, drawing books, it's small, a book, so one by one. And you were talking about handstands. I mean, this is interesting. Yeah. Very nice. Okay, I think we have sort of like an image of what you have been practicing, but also discovering over the last months, maybe. Can you tell us a little bit, just to give it a little bit of depth, where do you come from? What's the place? What's the story before the place that you are now?
So I interpreted it as well as you did. So literally, like, I'm from Indonesia. That's where my roots are. I'm born there, and I truly believe that influenced me in the richness of nature, mostly the wildness of it, and that's where I feel very connected to. But I also just simply come from a certain curiosity. Of to just explore, to learn. There's so much out there in this world that we can discover, right? And even in our inner worlds that I'm discovering lately, to work from intuition, to listen to my body and to know that it has so many stories that's stored, so many energy that's stored. So yeah, from curiosity and love mostly.
Beautiful.
And from the jungle.
Great.
Nice.
Well, we had a fifth question. Oh, no, it's a timer. We have a fifth question, but I think listening to you now, I think it's a bit superfluous, because the last question was, what's your necessity to move on? And actually, can I tell you?
Yeah, tell me.
No, listening to you, I think your necessity to move on comes from this curiosity you're discovering by the restrictive constraints of the period of time, but also the work you're doing.
Yeah.
You're discovering new tools. And I think if you work with curiosity, there's always a next place, a next space that you can move to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But anyway, if I ask you, what's your necessity to move on?
Yeah, just actually the same as you said, this curiosity, this realization of so many things that are out there to still discover, to still learn in a way of meeting new people, or listening to new music, or seeing new spaces, or putting myself into a different space and seeing what that does to me. So much that there's to discover, so that's what keeps me moving. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay. Lots of images already, huh? From one story. Goodness.
Yeah, I would like
reflect
to.
on this.
Yes, because I was thinking of now we live in a time of lots of restrictions. We cannot. We have to wear the mask, or we cannot move closer than 1.5 meters and stuff like that. And now for me it's the question, how can we find this very beautiful thing what you just described?
Yeah.
What do we need? And actually, what is your feeling? What is your intuition? What do we need in this time?
Yeah, good question. That's actually what I'm still on as well, because if I hear restrictions, the picture that I have is Corona, of course.
Mm-hmm.
The only beauty that I found in like wearing the mask, for instance, is it's so interesting that now we can only see like the eyes of people, right? It makes you realize how important this part of you is. When I always used to say like the eyes are the mirror of the soul, but there's so much that needs to tell you what you are thinking or expressing. So I also sometimes in the supermarket, since the mask, of course, I tend to look very deeply into someone's eyes, because you cannot see anything else anymore. So I'm like, what is that person thinking or looking at? And that's just that's just an interesting fact of me that I think like, oh, there's this new way of approaching it.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing that I can come up with right now.
Mhm.
That the certain beauty of it.
Yes. And would you say in that sense, because you're a curious person, but would you say that curiosity can help us in this? Like, can help us find different perspectives, maybe?
Yeah, I think it can, because people are also getting very creative with the restrictions. I've seen really great ideas of bars that's trying to do sell packages or having this one-by-one experience or something like that. It's so amazing. So we even we get triggered to get more creative and to think outside of the box, I guess. The box.
Or maybe in the box, no? In your case.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, nice. Thank you so much. Let's
you.
move on and we come back, of course, to make a cross-references.
Yes, so Saskia, you actually reacted. I think it's nice to continue with Saskia.
Yeah,
Yes.
go ahead.
So I will pin your video as well. Yes, here
Yes,
she is.
So Saskia, from this last half year, where lies your freedom?
Where lies my freedom in the last half year? Well, I'm now in Switzerland, in Zurich, for my work. And to go out and walk to a mountain, it feels very free. So the space around me and to be able to see different heights. I was talking with someone about the sun. Here there are no sunsets. The sun is behind the mountain. But in the Netherlands we can see the sunset like really long going into the sea. So to be able to walk, just this simple fact of being able to walk is for me now very, makes me feel very free. Just I can wear shoes and go somewhere. So yeah.
And what specifically this last period was awakened in your senses maybe, or on a professional level?
Yes, well, I realized how much I need the others, how dependent, I think me, but we human beings, or we animals, are, we need the other. And what I hope I take is also that I try to judge less now, because I feel so much the need to be hugged and to drink a beer with people and get drunk and to like to do all these things. And and in the beginning of the Corona period, I thought, people, come on, don't be so annoying. Just follow the rules. Just be on your own. Just do it. And I lately I've been thinking, no, it's such a human need to be together, to touch each other, and to. So I think I'm judging less now about people who don't like these rules and who just So I think what I hope that I take is to be respectful of needs, human desires of this social animal that we are, and how dependent we are on the water and the other animals and the land, and how fragile and tiny and just dependent we always will be, I think, also.
Yeah, beautiful. That was a lot of answering in one question. And the third one would be like, how did you use the restrictions for your benefit?
What I use now is for me it was a lot of practicing to say no. This is my space, you need to stay there. This is to protect my own little space, or big space, I don't know, just my space.
Yeah.
and to practice and say no. I would like now you to keep the distance. I would like you to wear your mouth mask. So to verbalize my, I find it very scary sometimes to be so visible, to say like, this is what I need from you, do this. So for me, I feel like I've practiced a lot with this, communication also, this showing of my need.
And was that like a new item for you, or was it something that was already part of your communication, but less clear or less defined, maybe?
Yeah, I think less defined. I think Corona helped me in this way to practice this. So.
Practice, no. I think that's a very interesting one.
I was thinking, because I was at some point I was so scared of Corona. I thought, no, it's too scary. And then I thought, no, wait, actually, I'm not so scared, but I'm using Corona to say no. I realized, it's actually my tool now to practice in, where are my boundaries? Do I like them to be a bit more there, or do I want them to be more here? And yeah.
So that's also you describe a very strong awareness of your needs also, and the verbalization, being language your topic. That's really, that's great. It's a great practice. But that's really from the personal to the professional and back, right? If I think about what you're doing, very beautiful. And can you describe a little bit for us, or tell us the story or the image where you come from?
Yes, I can. I'm from the womb, a womb. This is, for me, a story that I tell myself, that I go creative maybe, but that I also repeat to myself. There's this phrase that is quoted by the philosopher Gilles Deleuze, and the phrase originally was from Joël Bousquet, a writer, and this is, my wound existed before me, I was born to inhabit it, or in French it's, ma blessure existait avant moi, je suis né pour l'incarner, and to me this is very beautiful, because because the timer. Okay, I'll say it anyway. Before I was born, I was in the womb, and a couple of days before my birth, I was actually supposed to be a twin. I was supposed to have a twin sister, and a couple of days before we were born, she died. And I strongly believe that my body remembers this event from before I was born. And to me, to find words to describe this, and because I think my body knows this.
Yeah, that's not a
and
question.
Maybe I discover it too. So yeah, that's where I come from.
Thank you. And what's your necessity to move on?
Yeah, to live.
Yeah, evidence. I think we have one big circle here. Thank you so much. We'll come back to connect the womb with the bones, with the...
Nice, thank you, Saskia.
Beautiful, thank you.
Let's move on to Damar. Yes, Damar.
Yes.
Yeah, go, Damar. Oh, it's so nice to talk to you. A long time ago we were together.
It's so long ago.
I know.
It's crazy. It's so good to see you, even through screen. Live would be the best, but screen is good.
Yeah.
You look good.
Thank you. Being such a busy bee, working with so many different people, and in the crazy structure of such a big institution as the theater school, and you even work with the chills, it's also a structure, it's a lot of people, it's a lot of stuff and people around you, programs and schedules and everything. So I'm really curious, where lies your freedom?
On the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, you do all those organizational stuff. And artistic, you direct and you lead your team. And then to see the youngsters or the I also work with, I have 2 foundations, Chill Skills is dance and theater for youngsters, and rap is actually a really a big part of it as well, and spoken word. And the other one is Rediscover Me. I heard Maureen, what's your name, Maureen?
Yeah, Maureen. Yeah.
Maureen.
Heard you talking about rediscovery.
Yeah.
That's another foundation I have.
Okay.
Oh.
Zoom group.
Oh, can you repeat it again because your sound was.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Rediscover Me, and that is that's a foundation I started when I had MS. I had MS. I don't have had. I had it. Sorry. That's an inclusive dance group with people with and without restrictions, let's say. And actually everybody has their challenges, you know. And the question was, where lies my freedom? When I see the people that I work with, the participants, the students, how they work on the floor and how they grow in dance, and they can let go everything in their minds, and just that's
Great.
That's everything
That's
that
very
I
much,
love about it.
And of course, we're going to talk more about the restrictions and the physical restrictions. But for now, the restrictions of the RIVM was our management team. No, about like the restrictions that we have to live with now. What woke up in your system to do with this?
I just, for my foundations, I right away started to adapt, because there was only one necessity for me. That's that the participants they really need dance and connect together. That's for the youngsters, but also for my rediscovery group. So I immediately went online, even though that's not the same as live. Mm-hmm. And then I found out it helped them as well, but it really made me very creative. How can we still connect in this way? Through dance? Crazy, right? But we found a really nice method, a way of giving the class, where they really connect with each other, and that's a good way for the time being.
For now, yeah. So I think Dina, you can share some of your experience here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we are. I started with online practices. I think in the lockdown, the first one, and for me it was really an eye opener that people really had the necessity to move, and just by seeing other people moving, they connect. And the fact that people from here, but also people from, for instance, Bolivia or Africa or India, could do that together, and it was so emotional. I remember the very first class, the very first practice, because I call it practice better than class, from my feeling, and it was so emotional, because it was just, you saw the other one moving with you together, and normally we would not do that in the classroom or in the studio with people so far away. So that was really nice.
Would it be something that also brings a new way of dealing in the nearby future with sharing or finding other people to deal with, or expanding maybe possibilities of reaching out? Yeah. Yes, I did.
For the rediscovery group, I really connect with what Dina says, because now we have these online classes, and we also do it live at the ATD, and we have the broadcast, and then the participants who don't live in Amsterdam but are in a wheelchair, for instance, can still join. So that was for me really an eye-opener. Hey, for them now they can join, and usually they would say, "Oh, the class is in Amsterdam, I can't come." But now they can, and they can feel that need and necessity of moving and connecting together. So
So you will keep that?
we want to. I want to keep that.
Yeah.
That most certainly. And with the youngsters, also very nice because we have this beautiful group with. Yeah, I don't like the word problem youngsters, but we have a group with everything, very diverse
with
and
complex
inclusive,
stories. Yeah.
to say that word. And they connected in a different way online. For them it's so easy. It's like everyday life. It was for us that it's like a new way of checking in, and they were so vulnerable and open. So that in that way, I would like to combine it also with life, because life is important with art. It does not live online forever.
Well, I think we can almost skip the next question because that would be like how did you use the restrictions for your benefit? But you're already almost there. I mean, but that's on a professional level. So let's maybe narrow it down then, Damar, to you. How do you?
The other constrictive.
Yeah, because also in terms of the freedom, you talk about your work. And I'm also interested in your physical experience because you were not able to go to those classes to share this energy space. How did it affect you over the last half year?
That I wasn't able to be there on the floor live, you mean?
Be on the floor live, be more at home, be more sitting maybe, or I don't know what you do, but be more alone. Maybe.
In the first couple of months, I think I was too busy with reinventing or finding out what you can, the possibilities that are, what's possible online, and then for the foundations and also for the academy, the dance theater department, the dance teachers department. So there were a lot of things to find out and to be creative about, to think out of the box, like Maureen says. But then the summer came, then I was going totally in the meditative state and really that way. And now I'm in the part where I feel it's also hard to. I have to really meditate to keep my patience because I want to hug and I want to connect and I want to it really discovered me. We work a lot with partnering, physicality, and touching each other, and now we do it with more energy work because you have you need the distance, and especially with vulnerable target groups. But I hope. It will soon be over with the corona. That's now in this moment, Yeah.
And is there something? If I use the word benefit, is there something on a personal level that you could say I benefited from these restrictions?
Yes. Yeah. Everything actually made me more creative. Because you totally let everything. You have to let everything go in how it works. And how it worked, Yeah,
so then, but you're quite aggressively forced to make different choices.
Mm-hmm. And that's actually beautiful.
Nice. So Damar, where do you come from? Tell us all about it. Where do you come from?
Practically. Let's say I found out. My uncle did a DNA, so I have 7 or more nationalities in me.
Wow.
So I think that's very beautiful, but I always thought I was, and it's already I was Dutch, Chinese, Indonesian, and French. But there's more Italian and I don't know, German and, so, and I do feel like I have a broad mind, understanding, feeling of understanding, that's better put, and that's where I come from. I think that.
Mine.
Well, thanks.
And maybe one last little thing. What's your necessity to move on?
Growing. keep on growing, getting every pursuit of happiness. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Great stories.
Thank you.
Lots of images, Damar, going on.
Cool.
Thank you, Damar. And now we switch to Natalia. Natalia, actually, maybe you can tell us from where you are calling us.
Oh.
Because you are not here in Amsterdam.
Yes, no, I'm calling from Poland, from Wrocław, my hometown, from my parents' place.
Yes. And I remember what, maybe I can tell a little bit, you probably also will tell us, because you were living, of course, in Amsterdam because of your study, and then you had to go home to your mom and dad. What was the reason for that?
Well, I graduated university, so after this half a year of writing my thesis and being really in the papers, I got to go back home and be with my family, spend some holiday times. Only I don't really remember the holidays because when I was going back to see my family, I had a car accident and I only woke up a month ago from the coma. That left me in a coma for a long time. So that's my context.
Yes.
I actually woke up in a different reality, in a different country, in a different context because I didn't live with my parents since I'm 15. And now I'm 25, so 10 years. And with a very different political situation as well, because I think you know that in Poland the politics are not going the best and many people are protesting, especially women are protesting now because they were taken away their human right to decide on their own body.
Oh, I have to take this one in.
Yeah.
Natalia, you just told us
No,
where
very
you come
good.
from, and
Yeah.
that's a very strong image that you created there for us. But yeah, there's this question: where lies your freedom?
Yes, actually a really interesting question because freedom was on my mind for a long time already. And I'm usually thinking about it. Even in my first authentic movement experience, I had this experience that I was moving and then I felt this, I don't know, you can call it expressiveness or freedom. And then I just made this movement that I'm not able to do right now because my spine is broken. But maybe you can do it for me. It's moving your head backwards, like you're falling down, and like, oh, exactly like Diana is doing right now, until you lose control, kind of. You don't have to lose control, but to me, this movement is freedom.
Yeah.
And I was always told by my teachers that my freedom ends when your head, my freedom to move my hand ends in the place where my head starts, or where the other person's head starts. But actually I got to view it in a way like we tend to go through processes and through many processes, and then this one process, when we get into it, we kind of hook ourselves into a loop, and then we oscillate around this one idea until this moment comes and something switches, and then we dive into the open water only for 1 second, only to be changed into oscillating around a different loop and then around a different loop. That's how I got to see it. And for me, this movement with going backwards in my head and losing balance means this 1 second in between the loops, and I think this is freedom.
Wow.
Again, hard thinking.
Yeah. It's interesting because you include so much the movement in your answer, which for all the dancers, of course, is a language we love to listen to. Very interesting. Yeah, it's almost a bit embarrassing to ask this. I asked the others what
It's embarrassing to ask.
No, it's true, but
I think yes.
but what awakened this period? But this period, I was referring to the crisis of COVID, to the restrictions of Corona, but I think maybe for you much clearer is the restrictions of your own body, the restrictions of your of the accident, of not being aware that you were there, and then you wake up with a broken spine. I think that's a period that maybe is more valid referring to for you.
So actually, right now, because my spine is broken in 4 places, I cannot do this movement of my head backwards. So very kind of poetically, but it means I cannot do the movement that means freedom, which is also that I cannot really be free. It's a bit of a metaphor, but also not really a metaphor.
No.
You see what that because I cannot do this, I also cannot think to do this, because it would mean something different than before. That's why the interpretation of where I am right now is not very rigid. Like, I don't really know how to stand with both feet grounded, because everything turned out to have a different interpretation than I used to think, which maybe also connects to being in a different reality and around the different people in a different context.
And this
I think context is here very crucial as well.
Yeah.
definitely. And how does this this context? What brings it out in you? Like what is the theme? What's keeping you? What's on the front of your mind if you think about where you are now as a person?
Oh, that got me thinking. Actually, I was just reading my notes from before the accident, out of curiosity, to see how my thinking changed in this process.
Yeah.
Because for a month I don't have any memories, and then another month I'm kind of gradually stepping into different levels of being, I would say. And I think I noticed that because my thinking was less verbal, every time we do something, we don't do infinity minus one other things. So because it was preoccupied by making sense out of, like, consciously processing my reality, I didn't actually observe it as it is without trying to make sense out of it. As much as I think it's an illusion to think that I see things without making sense of it, because of course I have some preconceptions, but this definitely, it broadened made me a bit more observant and less active, because I cannot be active. So what I can do is sit and look.
Could you use, you almost color it as a positive thing or also a valuable thing? Is it also something that you can see as a benefit, to be more observant, of this observant quality?
I mean, it's like everything. It has good and bad sides. Actually, the accident, because it also hit my head a lot, I got to be light sensitive and sound sensitive, which means I hear everything very loud. And maybe also that's why I tried to put on the light, but I couldn't stand it, so I closed it right now. So on the other hand, it has bad sides, but it also brings out the interesting things out of it, which is like, I'm not desensitized and I'm not really disconnected from the experience, but I have to go through the experience and have these 25 different sounds coming into me, and I cannot turn off neither of them, which is a bit like what we experience. We cannot turn off, but we can tune in to certain things, and this is very, to me now, important to tune into something and try to focus.
Yeah.
And by saying that, I had a short message of Andreas. Andreas is also here. And actually, I think it's a very nice metaphor that you gave us by just telling us that for you, freedom is when you let your head hang back. And I remember my son, Maita, he also loves to do this. So whenever I carry him, then he throw himself back and he's like, hold me. And I'm like, wow, because he's getting heavier, of course. So why don't we just kind of do it all? Yes, try to do it. Just everyone that's here with us. Maybe we can just try it and
Do we have to stand up?
I don't know if we have to stand up, but it was an idea of Andreas, and I think it's really nice. So if you just hang there wherever you are, and how does that feel? Maybe, yeah.
I have to throw back like myself.
So that one is for you, Natalia. I really like it. Wow, it opens up.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
opens.
It's
Yeah.
really nice. Thank you, Natalia. So there you go. You moved the whole group of people there.
Yes, by you moving, I moved in my head as well.
Ah, that's good. Yes.
But you know what, Natalia? What's interesting also by telling by talking from your perspective, I wrote down tune in and focus. And in the well, you've been living in Amsterdam. You know how everything is possible here, or used to be, and how full it is, and how you have to choose every day. But am I going to see this performance or not? Or the movies or not? Seeing this friends or that group of people. And now suddenly we don't have to. And tune in and focus are like the words you use. And I think even sitting in Poland there with a broken spine, you can make this move. And yeah, that touches me a lot. And I would say, yeah, the last question would be, what's your necessity to move on? Please tell us. Or give us some words. You know,
I have a necessity to move on, but also I don't have the urge to move on, because I'm constantly moving onto different places and different things, because the recovery is going quite quick. And the moment I feel that this is established, I can do more and I can expand, but I don't know if I want to be more, because actually why do we want more? But at the same time I really want more, because it's about moving, it's about taking responsibility for myself. Until recently I felt like half of myself, or excluded from my freedom, because I couldn't do many things. So now it's also, I want to, but I don't want at the same time, because I'm afraid of seeing that I changed maybe, or that I didn't change. I mean, it has many branches to distribute this moving. But I would definitely want to make my movement of freedom, which you already demonstrated.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, like one last question for now. Before the accident, or just think of yourself in the period of finishing your thesis, finishing this whole period of studies here in the city, what do you think you would have answered then if I would have asked you what's your freedom? That
I think,
or
actually I would have answered the same
yeah
to this, because I already talked about it with Diana after the first Authentic Movement series. When I did this without really thinking that it has something to do with freedom or with liberty of choice. And then Diana actually said that maybe I should, I shouldn't, but maybe it was one of the movements that I did as first movement. But so I was thinking about this, and I got to think that it's actually maybe, I don't know if it was first or not, but it's definitely the most important, and freedom is the most important, and it really connects. So yeah, the deep things I think stayed deep as they are.
Thank you.
Yes.
So maybe let's take a minute to not talk, because in the silence are many answers, I think, and it's nice to just for a moment we are filled with a lot of images from our guests, so just let it sink a little bit. Yeah, 1 minute, only a minute.
Just listening to your breath.
Such an abrupt alarm.
Yeah, cold, I don't have any time. Hola. Okay. Do you want to respond a little bit to your guests, or shall we move on to like the questions from the guest to guest? Or do
Yeah,
you
that's
have
yes.
any?
Yes, I wanted actually, because Vincent is also here, of course, and it's a little bit in the back.
He's there. He's
And
there.
I know him, of course.
Yeah. Really.
And I know that he has his thoughts. I would say he is the stille observer, the silent observer. So I'm curious about what he.
How I would answer freedom, or one of those questions?
Yes,
or
also reflecting on what we just heard from our guests.
Yeah. Well, what I think is really nice to talk about in this, what I'm hearing and what I hope can happen more, at least that's how I feel it at the moment, is that we talk more about the possibilities and talk more about what are our options. And I think I hear pretty much with every person almost like an artist state of mind, I would say. And with that, I mean the limitations that we're going through, whether it's from Natalia or from somebody else. We take those limits basically as our possibilities and our next steps to go on an adventure, a journey, or experience, and connected to the body in this sense, or to words. And I find it amazing to hear all these quite inspiring stories of what is freedom and how do you look at freedom and what can you take as a next step, instead of maintaining to be in a tunnel of unrestricted, or we're restricted, or we're going through all these difficult times. And yes, we are going through difficult times, of course, but instead of like good or bad, start talking and debating and listening. Like you just surprised me with listening of a minute, I didn't know he was gonna do that, but it was really good to reflect upon what did I actually hear somebody say and talk, and do I actually really listen, and do I take in the possibility of what Natalia is saying, or Saskia, or Damar is telling me, and does it give me an opportunity to take a next step? So that's, I think, very rich about what I'm observing right now. And I wish and I hope that we can extend to a larger crowd of people, not just online, but also in general. And that's one of the things that I've been running into the past 3-4 months. I've been running into, like, I don't want to go into the debates of the struggles. I know there are struggles. I am very critical upon policies or Trump or this, and it's all very difficult. But I would love to go much more deeper into what is solutions, what are next steps, how do you see that, how do I see that? And I think this period has taught me a lot more about, can I actually listen to you much more, and can we come to the different terms of relationship, of listening, and really listening towards each other, even if you're really completely disagreeing with what I say.
Less judging, as Saskia quoted. Less judging. Yeah.
So that's a little bit how I observe it.
Yes, and I can also relate to it regarding our process at the moment that we're doing, because it's also about that letting go of also working with all these inspiring people, which I see also here is Andreas and Isaac, but Shizak, we cannot see you yet. Yeah, here. Yes, and this is actually also a process that we are in, continuously by going into the dialogue, letting go of our preconceptions of what we think something should be, and also try to listen differently.
Yeah, and earlier we talked about dancing online, sharing space online, which Damar also clearly discovered this period, and we all have this experience now that in a way it brings you more towards yourself in a way, because you're alone in a room. You don't have to do exactly what the teacher says, because he's not actually seeing you, not really. So you can make your own judgment there, you can be your own judge, you can be more reliant on yourself. And I even had to think about it when you said something about the masks, but also sometimes I'm on the bicycle and then I forgot I had the mask and I said, oh, I'm on the bicycle, so I take it off. And then suddenly you feel like, oh, that's a lot of like interaction with wind and the world, and whoa. So I actually start feeling, which is interesting, a little bit safe behind the mask sometimes. When it's cold, it's nice and warm, and I feel my own skin. And yeah, it's so interesting that the restriction, if you turn it around, it can be a safety. But the restriction can be also, suddenly you can do stuff that you normally don't do. If you see COVID as your box of 1 by 1 meter, wow, then suddenly you discover all the edges that you wouldn't have discovered whilst you wouldn't have the restriction. So that's interesting, but that's easy talking when you don't have a broken spine on 4 places. So I think that's I mean, restrictive constraints is one thing. If it's sort of coming from outside, if it comes from inside, also Damar, I remember the period we were working together in the period that you discovered you had MS, right?
Yes, it was really, when we were connected,
And that's, that's a restrictive constraint, and also a very complex one. Can you tell us a little bit about your process, like in big steps, maybe, or small steps?
Yes, big steps is a good one. The nutshell.
Or maybe you want to take out a little a period that has to do with that theme of restrictive constraints, that you were confronted with limitations of your body that you didn't expect.
It's I had to find out, your body and how it functions is based on truths, and all those truths are gone. You have to find out again how it works. That's the rediscover me part.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a roller coaster. Also mentally, you go through this whole roller coaster with emotions. Also because dance, the chronic illness and an incurable illness is society or you get this note of, oh, you end up in a wheelchair or you can't do anything anymore, and then you find out. I could find out for myself that there's so much possible, but you have to really choose for yourself and then find your own truths again, how your body works, and then you can still do everything differently sometimes, but you can still do it, It's really, it made me very rich in that way, in my way of working and being. But it does take hard work.
Yes.
Meditation is a good one, and
But would you say Damar, that you made like a mind shift there?
Yeah, totally.
And that affected your body as well, like how you experience your body.
Yes. Yes, and to the way before the diagnosis, I just was really not taking care of myself. Just the passion for dance was, but I really didn't choose for me and my health. So it's like, what is in English? Roofbouw op je lichaam plegen.
Well, exhaust the body or drain all
Let's say
energy.
exhaust the body,
Yeah.
the next level.
Yeah.
And then, then now, you really listen to it. And now I forget the question you asked, Diana.
Yeah, I forgot it myself actually, because you brought me to another
It was no about lichaam. I was like,
yes, to another mind shift. It was about the mind shift, like
the mind shift. And that my body also made that shift.
Yes. I'm just curious because because it's what Natalia told us is it's such a strong image about that. For you, freedom is that movement. And this is how it is somehow, and now all of a sudden there is not the possibility to do it anymore. So then we maybe we find having to deal with such restrictions. Maybe we find this shifting in our minds to find a new way of looking, or a new perspective, or a new way of moving, and I like this. I think that I really find this interesting because
I actually have an answer for me too, and I just put it here yesterday, and I do this, and it's, if you can, this is my quote from the really rediscovering myself. Is if you can let go what you once could do, so all those things how it used to work. If you can let go, then then you can find out what you now can do. Thinking in the possibilities, and that's actually I think it's also connected to your question, or what you're saying right now. I don't know if you can read it.
Yes,
actually.
I was trying to make you bigger, but now can you show us again?
Oh, sorry. Yes, it's back.
Als je het loslaat wat je nog ooit kon, kun je pas zien wat je nu kan.
Yeah. That's really
Yes.
So I will translate it. Yeah. If you can let go of what you ever could do before, then you actually see what you can do now.
Yes.
Beautiful.
But if you can't let go, I can't embrace the what is, like Natalia, I thank you very much, Natalia. It's so inspirational, and what a strong woman you are. Then you cannot have the pursuit of happiness, I think. Yeah, go Natalia, sorry.
But you are as well. I think it's very inspiring to say, to let go in a way. I cannot do this. I maybe I don't have capabilities to do it, but at the same time I was trying to really hard, but then I cannot forget it, and I get into this dissonance that doesn't allow me to go expand and be as embrace it as you did already. So maybe you can advise me actually. How can you make sense of the world in which you have to kind of abolish everything that you knew before about yourself to create a new world and a new definition of what you are right now? And this is changing every time. So actually my definition of what I was an illusion, because it was changing every time. I was just remembering what I was before and basing it on this remembering. But now it has to go because it's like this. So I have to create a new one, and every time something changes, every time it improves or it decays, I have to create a new one. So how do I ever think something is rigid? This was my problem.
Somebody used to.
You describe it so beautiful. You should write a book.
Who talks
Something
about
else.
fluidity?
I actually would like to ask this to Natalia. Like, are you writing down these things? Because I find it so poetical and so philosophical. And I mean, I would love to read the book. Really,
I have an assignment for you guys. For all the guests, let me see. Maureen, can you? I will give you again a minute. Maureen, can you think of a question you want to ask to Saskia?
To Saskia?
Yeah, not now, just in the head.
Yeah.
She's in Zurich, these mountains,
Yeah.
freedom, space, and coming from the womb.
Yeah.
That's older than her. Saskia, can you verbalize a question for Natalia? Now, I don't have to say something more, I think. Natalia, can you, now, where we go? From Saskia, from Saskia to Damar. Saskia, please go to Damar with a question. And Damar goes to Natalia. And Natalia goes to Maureen.
Ah.
Yeah, so we make a little round. And we just have a minute, so be very intuitive, think about the images, the stories.
Just a question you would like to ask.
Just a question you would like to ask now.
He said he's moving again.
Saskia was the first. Okay.
No, just one minute. Maureen, Saskia. Saskia to the mark. De mark to Natalia. We zijn nog wacht.
Oké.
Wacht, hè.
Oh.
That's the nice one.
Beter. Ik weet niet wat voor nare ochtend associaties had bij die andere, maar dat was niet goed. Yeah, Maureen.
So it's great because I already wanted to ask a question to Saskia. So that's perfect. Because I found your story about the womb so interesting that I really wonder the way you feel your twin sister. How do you connect that into your art? Do you connect it to a certain emotion? Is it stored in a certain part of your body? How does that feel to you? That to make sure that you're so sure of it.
Well, one thing is I've like one poem that I once wrote about this, also about the sound of this word womb. It's like you hear the womb, no? It's womb, like womb, like it's or the sea or the womb, like this this sound. There's one poem that I wrote about this sound, and to me this poem always when this poem is always like maybe a medicine, or like when I hear it I'm like, ah, okay, or when I say it to myself, like it's always like, ah, yes, okay, or it's it always makes me feel something. Like sometimes when I'm like anxious or nervous, or when I like and what I've noticed, for example, is that I find it really hard to say goodbye to people. Like I was thinking about this yesterday. Like I hate when I have a nice conversation with someone and we say okay bye and we walk away. I always look around at least 3 times. I cannot just say goodbye. Like with many things I have it. When I read a book, I often read for 2/3 and then no, I cannot finish it. I do not want to say goodbye, and I put the book away and I don't finish it. Like or when I'm on the phone and I'm like okay, but no, and then just I cannot say goodbye, and I already feel that in my breath. I cannot say goodbye. Like I immediately feel these things, and then I just feel this in my breath. Maybe it's most about my breath or my stomach. Like when it feels stuck and like then that's where I feel it. But it's also in my fingers. Like the blood in the fingers. You feel it sometimes, no? But and in the toes so it's everything, I think. And to me, this is why I like poetry so much, because when I then write about it, or when I think, yes, it's true, and then it makes sense in a way. But also because I think like poetry is also about breathing, because there's a rhythm, and then you stop. Or then you go, and then you go, and then there you stop. So it's very much about this rhythm also, and the breathing maybe mostly. Yeah, and language of course, and the body. And
Now I want to hear the poem.
Yeah. Would you like to read?
Well, one time I can do the poem.
Okay. Thank you. So, Saskia, do you have a question for Damar?
I was thinking about about how you treated your body very poor, like exhausting it. But then I was thinking, like, at the moment that you discovered this MS, I was wondering if you were also angry with your body for letting you down, or if you still trusted it, and how your relation changed. Like, were you not extremely angry? This was one of my questions, and I was wondering if your perception of time changed. So you can choose.
I go for the first one for now. Yes, I have been angry, but mostly at first sad, deeply sad, because the fear of not being able to contribute and be busy with my passion. So it's like being used. What is it? Zinloos. What is it? Useless, useful, useless. Being useless in society, in my life in society, to contribute in some way in dance and growing. That was really something that I was very sad about when I believed the doctors. Maybe I'm angry at the doctors. No? But it has to do so I think it's more sad, and but I'm very thankful for my. I have this really positive nature in me. So to turn it around, that went very quickly. So the perception of time, Yes, I do have a perception of time that it changed because you have a lot of up and down moments. I have a relapse and remitting, so then it goes less. Then it's nerves are hit, and then you don't really function well in your body, and then it sort of heals sometimes partly, sometimes totally, and usually when we feel bad, I think more people can relate to that. When you feel really bad in your body, you think like that nothing is possible. So you think about, what am I thinking? I have all those plans. How am I thinking I'm going to complete that? And then I could find out that I could let go, because the next day is a different day, or the next moment is a different moment, and then everything is possible again. So that's something I really learned. Yeah.
Interesting.
Interesting,
Yeah.
Control of time.
Yeah, because I think the just correction of yourself, Damar, that you say maybe I'm not angry at the body, but I'm angry at the doctors. It's interesting to stick to that. And maybe not for now, but for yourself, because maybe you should. Because if the society we have and the things you've learned so far created for you the fear that you were useless by having an incurable illness, already says something about how we deal with illnesses, like something
As a society.
Yeah, as a society.
Yeah,
So-
don't get me started about that, actually.
No, but yeah.
But isn't,
But I understand, yes.
isn't this what I find interesting? If we're currently, of course, all going through a similar situation, which you have been dealing with already before, Damar. You had to deal with a new situation, Taya in her way, and now we all of a sudden, let's say, as people that have maybe less problems physically or incurable disease, we all of a sudden we are dealing with this situation, and then it's quite encouraging to see that you can change that, you can shift it. There's new possibilities to make use of, and so the outside, let's say, society puts a lot upon you, and then how do you put that away and still keep track of the possibility? You have to be quite strong as well.
Yeah, and also being able.
I think it's working hard.
Yeah, because it's maybe not even about being strong, but being fluid, being in that square box. I think the box is like the ultimate metaphor. We all should put a box in our living room, just to remind yourself, like, in that square meter, you can find freedom. How cool is that? Anyway.
In a way we did, right? We were locked down. So yeah.
It's the lockdown. Yeah, it's great. Damar, do you have a question for Natalia?
So many.
Yeah,
Like
I'm sure
I
it's
said,
the beginning of a conversation that
sorry,
expands
what did you say?
everything. No, I'm sure your question now is the beginning of a long conversation that expands this evening. But the first question.
I know, I understand. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I am very curious because just from my mind, because I was I think I missed the part. You are now 1 month out of Chicago, Natalia.
Yes,
Sort of.
I mean more than a month. Sort of it. I was for a month in a coma, and it was for the whole September, and then October I was halfway and still had another surgery, and so I was in and out, and then now it's I'm constantly on conscious processing with a normal contact with environment.
Okay. And I'm very curious. What do you wish for yourself now? What is the like the internal wish you want to realize?
I will think about it for 1 second.
No problem.
But I think that it's also a little bit symbolic, and it's about being able to jump from the bridge to the river.
Wow. You have such a beautiful word.
I would love to do the movement backwards that I cannot do right now. I think these two, but it's about the movement, but it's not about the movement. It's just about being able to think that I can do it in a way, to not even question that I can do it, to just go and do this because it's kind of, I'm still holding on to my previous vision that you could I really admire what you said before, because you were saying that then you wake up and you know that if you wake up, it's a new day and you have different possibilities. And it's actually like this, because if we could wake up one day and lose the abilities, then logically we can wake up one day and have all the abilities in a different sense of it.
Yes.
Which I never thought about it in a way. Now you kind of feel the puzzle that I was missing myself in this dissonance I had. Because it's really reversing the problem. It's like you can lose it and then you can gain it, and it's really accidental and really like gambling a little bit.
It's not a linear process. We very shortly talked about time. We tend to think time in a linear way, but of course it's not. And I think going into these deep processes, it helps to let go of this linear square structure, because life is not like that, thank goodness. It's fluid and expanding and going backwards to go forward, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, come on, you agree on this, Vincent, I know.
No, completely,
Okay.
completely. No, but to go into time, I think what is really nice that we experienced in our process, together with our beautiful musician and Roberto. And Roberto, we were researching, and in our Western perception, we are researching. Yeah, we are searching, but he's always saying, no, we're finding.
Yeah.
So that's already one thing that breaks kind of like, well, we have to be on a search, we have to search, research. No, we're finding things. And then I have been improvising with him, and we were debating about time and how time is, and he sees everything part as one circular thing. So it's not something separate in a linear from A to B to Z or whatever, but it's round, it's circular. So within improvisation and improvising, sharing time in that sense, we actually lost linear time. And then the funny thing was, he approached me and said, well, you never get tired. I said, but when I'm improvising and I'm moving with you, I'm not into linear time. So actually I don't lose my energy, we gain energy. So when you think about linearity, to come back to that, we often tend to go forward or think about forward or backward, but we lose a lot. But when we think about circularity, it actually feeds back or opens up new possibilities. That's how I look at it.
There you go.
Thanks.
Now to complete this circle of questions, Natalia, do you have a question for Maureen?
Yes. Okay, so as far as I remember, you said about the freedom being able to find, that you are able to find the freedom in this 1 by 1 square when you're moving.
Yeah.
I was curious and I wanted to ask, how would it be if you had to be everywhere else but not in the 1 by 1 circle?
What my freedom, where my freedom would lie then, you mean?
Yes, or just how would the story go? You can choose.
Question. I think it still lies in the ability to choose. So even though I had this experience and I'm now really sure that there is freedom even in a 1 by 1 meter box, I think that I always enjoyed the fact that I choose how I feel. And not literally how I feel, but I choose how to react on a certain situation. And that really opened up the space for creating within or moving within a 1 by 1 meter box, but also just in normal conversations or in being in the supermarket or just in general, but that's also because I'm really into this process lately, because I always used to react instead of respond. And now I'm really learning, teaching myself that I stand still, I take in what I hear, and I respond instead of react from the outside. I go inwards and I choose what I tell you. I choose what I show myself to you. And that was like, bing, freedom.
Oh,
Freedom of choice.
Freedom of choice,
Freedom of
Yeah,
choice.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's letting go also of old patterns and letting go of your first impulse, which is one of the first things of improvisation, guys, as we all know. Letting go of the first impulse. I'm working with youngsters now in high school. But that's, we call it mindfulness, but it's the same. It's just like, what's your first impulse and not respond to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's big freedom in this. And it's a work, I can tell you, from half my age, it never stops. That's also great, because you can go on.
Yeah.
Wow, what a rich talk, guys. This is 1.5 hours.
Maybe I would like to.
Maybe there's guest people listening that want to say something.
There are a lot of listeners, and maybe you want to contribute or ask questions. I'm curious because Rose, you were saying at one point you were chatting and you said me too. Can you remember that moment and maybe the Me Too moment?
Well, that's when somebody said to Natalia or was to Saskia, I don't know anymore, or was to Damar, because it's so rich, the history you're sharing is so rich, but you were saying in such a poetical way, or wise, I think I would use the word wise about your experiences. But somebody said, oh, you should write a book. I think they said to Natalia. Yes, but maybe Natalia, Damar, and Natalia. I missed the first guest. I'm understanding that you were moving from in 1 to 1.
Yeah.
Maureen, yes.
But I thought what interesting to hear this, because of course you have very specific constraints now related to the twin and to the car accident and to MS. And when I'm teaching the students now, they are, of course, I had to go out of my own limitation of thinking to rethink my class. And I must say, of course, I always try to renew my class a little bit, but I love my class of the way. But I had to change, and I was really the first weeks very frustrated. But of course, I had to find a way, which I ended up finding. And I'm glad I found it, and it's very different than a physical thing, it's more mind thing. But I also, anyway, give to the students this, the development of patterns of coordination, and when we are babies, they develop 1 by 1, of course in a very spiral way, so they're all mixing each other. One pattern comes here, the other comes there. So I give tasks for them to improvise only with one pattern, and if you only improvise or with only one plane of action, and if you only do sagittal, you only do things like this, and throwing the head to the back or to the front, and they always said, wow, but this is so limiting, I cannot improvise only in this pattern or only in this plane of action. And mostly in the end of the session, of course, they found so many possibilities inside that limitation. So it relates a little bit to
what some of you were saying. So no, I'm glad to hear from another perspective, you know, because I think, of course, we are all we are very used to do whatever we want, whenever we want. And now we were confronted with the body crisis, a crisis of body sickness, which made, gladly we all are healthy now, but from Corona, but which made us, we think and reflect on what is really freedom and how can we function in a certain constrictive way of being, of moving. And of course missing all the hugs and etc. and all the cafes. But it makes us stop to think. That's how I thought about Corona all the time. Now, the last months. It just made us say, okay, stop and think about it. Stop and feel that moment of silence, or stop and feel that sound, or that smell, or something like this.
Yeah, yes, and also maybe stop and feel or hear, or hear or listen where the other is starting. Like we're in space, but also kind of in all these different spaces, not just in the physical space, but also in our thinking space, and
And also when the discussion about the mask and how, but you know that you also need to protect the other from you. Of course, it can be a very scary thought, you know, but it is also, it's also, also something to think about. We really, I think I was thinking, of course, not the sickness of people who died, like my father, he died in Brazil, so I was there, and he ended up dying from not direct from Corona, but his heart, he was saved from Corona, but the heart was too, so we lost a lot of things, but I think we will maybe to look back into also finding in all this black period positive things, like, yes. Okay, and I thought when we're talking about linear time, because at one moment I was working a lot with this idea of linear and non-linear time, and I made a work which I shared also with in an interview with Germaine, because at that moment I was taking the classes with Germaine also, and it really opened a space in my mind that was like, whoa. This saying, it was the first time I did any African dance then. So it just opened like something. And I was working with this non-linear thing, and I was reading Bergson, and maybe Henri Bergson, this book, it's called Time and Free Will. It's interesting to share, yes.
Henri Bergson.
Yes,
because it talks a lot about that linear time is something that we learn. And besides that, there is this other infinite time, and how can we grasp this insights that are coming from this infinite time, which is not the regular clock time.
Nice, and maybe also for people that don't know Germaine, you're talking about the classes of Germaine Acogny.
Yeah.
And Germaine Acogny is a great inspirator.
Yeah.
For I think
this week we shared first time I think in Senegal.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Yeah. In 2008.
Yes.
And I just saw this week a movie from that period of time, and it's such a big source, her way of moving, and how she connects the African wisdom to the contemporary dance world, and
So whenever you are looking for something very inspiring, you look for Germaine Acogny. You can find a lot online. Yes.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Yeah.
I really love the philosopher Deleuze, who also is very much based on Bergson. And my great inspiration model is Rosy Braidotti. She's an Italian philosopher. And they also really reflect a lot about how time is both circular and linear, and also about how life is impersonal. They see life as a great impersonal cosmic force that is everywhere, in everything, and so you don't own your life. It's not yours. It's just temporarily now whoop, flowing through you, and at one point, yeah, life will continue also without you. So it's trying to think like in a non-individualistic, but in a very cosmic way. Like life is Zoe. It's a force. It's like it's cosmic. It's not you. And this to me is also very inspiring to think of life as so like.
And we are just a little instrument that materializes.
From
Yeah. An instant, and then
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Good.
I think what I had yesterday, which is really beautiful also, and I saw this with Dinah as well in part of her process, going into authentic movement, but also with Katrine yesterday. They went into a state of travel with the body, which reveals like different time frames. So it's the body is here, but it doesn't really just possesses this time, and time is actually passing through her. And I saw this in Dinah, her work, where all the roots of Bolivia are of different times, but also other times are passing through the body, which is for me related to the fact that we're not just in a linear time scale from A to B, but we're passing through all these experiences and part of this life force, I could say. But that's just how I experience it when I look.
No, I can totally agree to it, because when I go into that zone, then then time is not relevant anymore actually, because then it's like I can stop the time, or maybe I can be it sounds maybe a little bit negative, I don't know, but it's kind of you have the hold on time. You can not control it, but there is no beginning and no end.
Yeah. And definitely no judgment of the time. Or you're not late or you're not early.
No,
you're
not at all.
there.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. In a very good meditation, this happens also. I realized.
Yeah, but even in a small meditation, even in the 3 minutes, it can happen. Yeah, definitely. It's all about the same.
And I think about time is not with you and with Haya, Dana and Vincent. Time is not the piece you made, right?
Time is not.
Time is not. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
right?
yes.
I had this click.
Yeah,
You say.
I have to go back into it.
Yes. That's so much. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you explain a bit?
About the piece.
Yeah.
Actually, it was like a rework recap that we did. We worked in the academy, and we found out in our working process that we can actually have kind of a timeless structure, that we can work with different people, and then there will always would come out something else, something different, because you're working with different bodies in a different context, kind of. But the only thing that we give is the structure, and this is what, it's kind of timeless. I would say it's timeless.
I mean, of course, literally, practically, you never escape the time of the theater. There's always lights on, lights off. Let's put it like that. We cannot really escape that. But within that, we really don't try to structure it in a very linear sense, and we try to really go from the different bodies, from the different people, and from the different knowledges, and from that, be in a dialogue of how we can co-create different structures to the piece. But of course, we can never really escape the on and off switch of the piece.
But at least for a moment, when you are in the piece, or we hope, of course, when you see the piece or experience it, that you can be in that moment of no time, that you can really dive into it without thinking back or forth,
Yeah.
but it's just there. And actually also while we're working at the moment, for our next performance in March, this is also our focus point, that how can we give the audience a different experience, instead of just coming there and seeing, but more than that seeing is, but really experiencing it. And then we talked about it today, Vincent, and we found out that, we knew it before, of course, but then it came across again, is that the intention of the movement for us is really, you can say, the most important
I think for me,
base.
for me, working with either Andreas or with somebody else or with other people, it's really got to get to the right intention. Getting into the right intention of what you are doing, and not so much what you're doing and like knowing, I know exactly what movement, but having the knowledge of what intention is coming, with what intention do I move, rather than to have a structure of like understanding what type of movements you do. Because if you know with what intentions you're playing for me, then you can pull me in without having to consider time. So then I leave time behind, and within that, then stories can build upon itself without having a logical order. But that's just how I observe it and how I love to work. So I love to go to intention, and then from that intention, the audience will be drawn into that world without having to tell you, well, I'm going to groceries, and then I met you, and that's just not how I work. So it's the opposite way of working. And it's trying to go to the logic of the body, the logic of together with Diana, of course. Yeah. I shut up because I
Maybe I want to tell you, of course, we have also a little audience in the Zaal here in the stage, but unfortunately I cannot. I'm a little bit afraid of moving the laptop, because then maybe we lose connection. So the cables, we don't do that.
I will speak from the dark.
Yes, and then there's a voice from the dark. Maybe this is. I see Lucy here.
This is very funny also. First, thank you for all the inspiration. And I wanted to start also. I'm coming from a visual world, but you're not seeing me now. So before, my profession was really with visuals and colors, and also in my movement, going around the world, taking pictures, bringing it here on billboards. And from there, I think in 2012, I wanted to change because I was getting tired, and my body also, I also exhausted my body, so I couldn't move anymore. I got a kind of reuma, and so I had to go inside. And I said, okay, what I'm going to do now? And even I still, I went to India to recover also, to breathe again, and to get in contact with my body again, and found the dance also doing it with Diana and Vincent. Even before, I remember now, I was a dancer on the school for a new dance development, but then I decided, no, I'm not a dancer, so I gave myself restrictions all the time. Because I told myself, no, I didn't start when I was 8, so how can I become a good dancer? Even in the art, I gave myself restrictions. How can I be a good artist? I don't have a crazy bicycle, or I don't look like a crazy artist, so how can I be an artist? So I think we're doing that so many times of the day and in our lifetime, and it's a pity we're doing it, and I'm still doing it and trying to get rid of it. And in this time also, I now realize I have to go back to myself and in my own house, and finding new ways to come in contact and really go into my body and see what is still there. So I did Bhutto dance also to really go in my bones and really find also the darkness there, because I think there's a lot, there's some tension in my body. I have to get out of it, and so still searching and struggling and giving this a new movement. So I wanted to to share that with you. And it's very inspiring to hear the stories of restriction time, the boxers. Going into so much different worlds.
Thank you. Yes. Now, thank you for sharing, Lucy. You all could hear her, I guess. Yes. Great. Yes. Lucy, we also met with the artist as resident here at Plein Theater. I'm also really happy.
And
that
she
she's
improvised.
here. And she improvised
1
with
month
us.
ago with us, live on
I'm
stage.
still wondering to see something back, but it was really great time to do that also, and that is why I like the place here, because it's like a black box, and you can just let go the whole world and really go more inside and exchange and
Thank you, Lucy. Nice.
Yeah.
You show me the.
I showed that at the time because it's almost 2 hours that we talk, so maybe you want to finish off with the last, maybe there's some people who want to say something for the last, not to start a whole new discussion. I think with this group of people we can talk for a week, no sweat, no problem, if we had enough food and water. But let's continue talking, but not for now. Let's sort of like round off this restrictive constraints evening. Maybe Vidana.
Yes, of course I want to thank everyone who's here, and I just want to also, I see Tarali. Can you raise your hand so we see you? Yes, Tarali is, yes, Tarali, nice that you're here. So nice, because Tarali I know from Assam when I was working there with Padung Dupa, and and she's actually also part of the project that we're doing in March, because with a lot of international performers, we also working at the moment online, and if you join in March the experience, then you will have the chance to see. Also Tarari and others that are not here at the moment, Tarari, can you, because you're I think the most far away from like where we are now in Amsterdam, and listening to all of these things, is there something that you wonder about, or that you are inspired by, or maybe you kind of, maybe you can say something about that you just heard, or relate to what we just talked about?
Yes, it's really interesting for me, and especially when I was life, it's really encouraging, and it is very good. And about feeling of freedom, it's a personal view, but she said that rest your head, it's really nice. That made me also feel relaxed by doing it, but always I try to say in that kind of for relaxing myself, and that's good. And this is my first experience actually with all of you, and I really enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tarali, for being here, because we don't have to forget that you are in a very different time zone. So in your place, I think it's
almost midnight.
Almost midnight, exactly. So wow, thank you for being here, because you also were the last time here. Really appreciate your presence. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then also I saw, we just see a picture of Majid. Majid, do you hear us?
You have to put unmute.
Okay.
Unmute.
I will unmute you.
Unmute.
Yeah, it won't work. Yeah, I didn't.
Just to ask.
Majid?
Hello, hello.
Hello,
Okay.
Majid. It's so nice that you are here.
For some reason, I have to hold the mobile like downward because it's loading, so I actually have to hear the things more than I can see the people. So that's exactly why. Because if you see my picture, you just probably see the ceiling because it's all white. So. But I'm listening. But if you still have time, I have one little question.
Yes.
Okay, I hope I'm clear because first of all, it's nice that you guys are doing this, and if I'm not mistaken, I heard that Natalia said that before the incident, she thought it was more illusion, and then after that, it was something else which I missed the word at this moment. But I was asking Natalia, what does she think if even all what she's been through or she is at the moment, by just waking up will be as clear as this is all a dream or an illusion itself?
Very philosophical.
So you mean, sorry to say, thank you for a question. You mean that I'm waking up and everything was an illusion that I thought is an illusion anyway?
Yes. And I'm talking before and after the accident.
Okay, so before the accident, I had this dream that I was in a world, and you know how dreams are for everyone different, but for me, so it was in my own language, in my mental space, and then I woke up into a different world. Only it was a dream again, but I didn't realize, and then I woke up again. So it happened like a box in a box in a box. And then after the accident, I was in a coma for a long time, and everything was already okay, but I was still in a coma. And the doctors didn't know why am I still in the coma. So a psychiatrist or a neuropsychiatrist thought that I'm in a coma because I'm so depressed from the accident, only I don't remember it. And I got some medicine to wake up faster, but I still couldn't wake up until it came very gradually. But actually where my memory is starting is that I knew that something happened, but I didn't know what happened. So I thought that until I cannot wake up from this dream, until I know where I would wake up, in which place. Without knowing in which place I'm going to wake up, it would be again a box in a box in a box. So I think, it's like a similar, I think that was before was also after, but in a different sense. I don't know if it answered your question, but that's what
I see. On the top of that, I also like to say that it's a very encouraging personality that you've been through this and you're still here, and it's nice to see this.
Thank you.
Yes.
It means.
Yes.
So basically, that was my question, and thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Majid. Thank you. What a rich conversation.
What a rich
It's amazing.
conversation. I don't know how your Fridays normally are. Mine are a little bit more, meager, I'd say. To round it off, I just read the other day a really nice line from Rumi, which has to do with physicality, and it just came back to my mind listening to all the stories, and I thought maybe it's a good one. He was a wise guy. He was a poet. He wrote stuff many years ago. I don't know. Yeah, it's a long time ago. Rumi, yeah. You can only trust the body if you listen to it.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
nice.
maybe one of the beauties of the restrictions that we have now with the COVID time is that we finally have the silence around us, especially in the city, and the time, especially in the Western world, to listen, to actually listen. Because I think if one of the things, our capacity to listen hasn't been increasing that much over the last thousands of years, I think, actually. And with the printed word and the digital world, I think we lost a lot of nuances of listening. And I have to tell you, the strongest physical listening I've seen, and I just told this to Andreas the other day, is I had a sister, she died also this year, just before the corona, and she was very handicapped, mentally, physically, she couldn't do anything. But she had a life, and she had caretakers, and she couldn't talk, and she hardly could see. But communication between her caretakers and her, they had a there were some people who had a very close relationship with her, and the way they would communicate was of a level that really took my breath away. And it was just to see the people being so, they could see nuances of the skin, of the tone of the skin, of the face. They could communicate with very slight touches. And it's in places where the disabled, where the mentally handicapped, physical handicapped live. And it's places where normal, healthy people don't come. So you old guys, if you don't come there, you miss this. You miss these qualities. And I think that's also very interesting. That if you just go on and everything is as it's supposed to, you miss also levels that are there. And with the incredible restrictive constraints, as my sister had, I could see her communicating with people, not with me, because I wasn't there enough. I could communicate her with touch, but with people on a day-to-day basis, wow, that really silence you.
Yeah.
And you just listen. Yeah.
Yes. Wonderful. Thank you, Franziska, and yes, thank you everyone. That we have to finish this
Yeah, we
meeting,
have to
right?
finish.
Yeah.
And so I wrote it up, and I really want you to thank for your contributions for all our guests. Thank you to Saskia, Maureen, and Natalia, and Damar, and all the other people. And of course, I want to thank Plein Theater and the technique and the production and everyone.
Dwight for the image.
Dwight for the image, and it's really nice that we have the possibility to do it here, and we will continue. I yet don't know when will be the next, but you will be of course informed to participate, because for me I got very silenced today from all these beautiful stories and words that you share. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you for organizing.
Oh, and can you give your quote one more time, Franziska, from Ruby?
The Rumi. Where are you? I had to write it down because, who was listening to who? It's you can only trust the body if you listen to it.
Nice one.
Yeah.
On point.
Let's start listening to the body, people.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Okay.
Bye bye.
Lekker.